Breaking news at this hour, the Pentagon saying tonight that reports that North Korea has missile capability are, quote, wrong. The comment comes after some startling information today at a House Intelligence Committee hearing. Colorado Congressman Doug Lamborn quoted from what he said was the unclassified portion of a Defense Intelligence Agency report, which concludes that North Korea may have nuclear weapons that could be delivered by ballistic missile. Joint Chiefs Chairman Martin Dempsey was testifying before the committee. He chose not to comment because the unclassified portion reportedly had not been made public yet. That news comes on the eve of Secretary of State John Kerry's visit to South Korea on Friday. President Obama discussed tensions on the Korean Peninsula today during an Oval Office meeting with United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon.
We both agree that now's the time for North Korea to end the kind of belligerent approach that they've been taking and to try to lower temperatures. Nobody wants to see a conflict on the Korean Peninsula.
Cliff May is president of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, and he joins me now from our Washington bureau. Cliff, welcome back to Bottom Line. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Mark. Good to be with you.
Cliff, what's your reaction to this information we're hearing? First, part of a report which was said to be unclassified portion saying that North Korea could have nuclear capability, and then the Pentagon coming out with a firm denial this evening.
Well, there's some ambiguity, obviously, but what we do know is that North Koreans have missiles. Those missiles are getting better year by year. They have nuclear weapons. There's no question they're trying to fit nuclear devices to the warheads of their missiles. If they can't do it today, by next year, expect that they will. Expect that the Iranians will also overcome this technological challenge. And that's what the future we face. Rogue regimes with missiles that are capable of delivering nuclear weapons today, tomorrow, the next day. That's what we face, and we better be ready for that.
And Cliff, how should the West go about seeing a diplomatic dialogue with a country whose leader, Kim Jong-un, has threatened to launch preemptive nuclear strikes against its enemies, including the United States?
That's exactly what he's threatened. Thermonuclear attack is what he's threatened. I don't think there's a whole lot of room for diplomacy with the North Koreans at this moment. That could change, but I really don't see it. I think it's time that we stopped all aid entirely. And I think the Europeans need to stop aid, and so do the South Koreans, and trade. We need to turn to the Chinese and say, this is essentially a problem you have to handle. You're responsible for this. You have to find a way to rein in this North Korean regime and really put some more pressure on the Chinese. We also have to be willing, if they do shoot up a missile of any kind, to shoot it down with missile defense. It is not permitted for them to do it. We should destroy it and show them that we can destroy it. Some would say that's provocative. I think it's time to stand up to young Kim Jong-un.
Cliff, you just mentioned China. Beijing is North Korea's largest trading partner. The North relies on China for fuel, oil, and consumer goods. Do the economics of the relationship give China any leverage over North Korea? What's the dynamic like?
I think the economics of the relationship do absolutely give China some leverage. Now, I suppose one can say yes, but a lot of innocent people will suffer. But a lot of innocent people have been suffering for 3 generations now under the Kim dynasty. We have about 200,000 people in North Korea living in concentration camps. We have a large percentage of the population malnourished. Probably most people don't have electrical lights to turn on. So I think it may be time to do something difficult. And yes, this regime cannot exist economically if it doesn't have support from the West and, more importantly, support from China. And I think we have to put some pressure on China. The other way to do that is to tell China, look, I don't think we can stop the Japanese and perhaps the South Koreans and perhaps the Taiwanese from having their own nuclear weapons. Is that really the kind of neighborhood you want to live in? Yeah. You really want other nuclear powers on your borders? I don't think the Chinese do want that.
I'm speaking with Cliff May, president of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Cliff, on Sunday, China's new president Xi Jinping said of North Korea, quoting here, "No one should be allowed to throw a region and even the whole world into chaos for selfish gains," end quote. Is China's patience with the North wearing thin?
I hope so. I'm not entirely clear on that. He didn't mention North Korea by name. That's better rhetoric than we've heard if indeed it is directed towards Kim Jong-un. But I think we have to see if that rhetoric is matched by any actions on China's part, if they really do make an attempt to rein in this young dictator.
Well, how significant is North Korea's closing of an industrial park that was run jointly with the South? Commerce notwithstanding, that park was a way for North Korea to obtain badly needed hard currency.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's very significant for the South or for others in the region. In fact, I would argue at this point it's time for the South Koreans to say, I think we have to close it down. Unless we can have reasonable relations with the North, we can't have this kind of economic trade. It was an opening. It was an attempt to do some economic diplomacy. I think the lesson is that it's failed. It has to mean more to the North Korean regime than it does to the South Koreans, and I think that proposition needs to be tested.
And Cliff, we are getting headlines via the Bloomberg terminal and Bloomberg.com that South Korea says that it sees no unusual North Korean troop movements or attack signs. That's according to a South Korea Defense Ministry official who spoke by phone. Would the United States, Cliff, consider redeploying tactical nuclear missiles to South Korea? Would that serve as a deterrent to the North Korean threats?
Well, it might serve as a deterrent if you believe they can be deterred. I can understand some people saying it's provocative. I think moving in as we have seaborne missile defense is probably a very good idea. That's not so provocative. I don't know that we need nuclear weapons there at this moment. I'm not sure that's the best thing to do. I think I would make it clear to the North that they're going to pay a price if they do anything provocative. They may not launch these missiles, by the way, between now and Monday. They're prepared to, up to 5, but they may not. If they do, shoot them down, use economic pressure, try to get the Chinese. I think those are the next steps. I don't think the headline-grabbing development of sending in tactical nuclear weapons into the South is, I think is probably going too far right now.
And Cliff, we have about a minute left. Does the hostile rhetoric coming from North Korea have the benefit of drawing Washington and Beijing closer? Isn't their goal the same, a stable, nuclear-free Korean peninsula?
You would think that's the case, but in the past, the Chinese have hesitated to be truly cooperative. They've said they either can't or won't really do anything serious to rein in the North. Now, they do have their concerns. If the regime should collapse, a lot of refugees would probably be pouring across their border, and maybe that's true. They're not eager to see a free market, united Korean peninsula that would be close to the West. I understand that. I think it's wrong of them, but I understand that. So you're right, Mark. It could be drawing us together, but I don't see any signs of it realistically, pragmatically yet.
Cliff May, he's the president of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, is joining us from our Washington bureau. Cliff, it's always a pleasure to get your perspective. Thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mark.